I want you to picture someone. Let's call him Alex. It's kind of a composite of the most disciplined people we see in the financial independence community.
Okay.
He's 21, single, just starting his career. He's bringing home $5,000 a month after taxes.
That's a great start.
A great start. Yeah. He lives pretty modestly, maybe a shared apartment, but he has this secret superpower, a 75% savings rate.
75%. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if you plug that into any FIRE calculator, you're looking at financial independence in, what, less than a decade?
Exactly.
Purely mathematically, Alex is winning. He's crushing it. He should feel completely empowered, totally secure.
He should. But the reality is, well, it's a lot messier. Instead of feeling unstoppable, Alex is stressed. Perpetually burdened. And it's because that high-octane discipline, it requires this constant vigilance.
He's watching every penny.
Every single dollar. He's sweating the mental math on everything. He worries that a $100 purchase today, he's a spontaneous weekend trip or even just a good pair of shoes, he's worried that's going to cost him tens of thousands of dollars in future compound growth 40 years from now.
And that's the price, isn't it? The price of perpetual delay. He's hyper-disciplined, yes, but he's locked himself into this cycle where he values an imagined future.
A spreadsheet projection.
Exactly, a spreadsheet. More than the tangible, vibrant experience of his life right now. The discipline, the very thing everyone praises, might quietly be setting him up for some profound regret later on.
So we have to ask the difficult question. What if that race to get to FI as fast as humanly possible, that unrelenting hyper-discipline, what if it's quietly costing you the best parts of your life?
What if you get to the finish line, you're financially free, but you look back and realize you sacrificed everything, joy, relationships, memories you can never get back?
It's the essential tension of this whole movement, right? The difference between, say, financial success and life success.
It is. If the pursuit of freedom makes you chronically miserable in the present, then what exactly were you pursuing in the first place? That internal stress is, well, it's a very high cost.
So today, in this podcast, we are tearing up that old FIRE rulebook, the one that demands total deprivation.
It's time.
Welcome to Project FIRE. We're going to explore what we're calling no regrets retirement. It's about finding that sweet spot that lets you live a rich, meaningful life now, making sure life doesn't just pass you by on this journey to financial freedom.
Yeah, we'll get into the destructive psychology of deprivation, define some new rules for prioritizing your spending, for things that bring lasting value, and we'll analyze why the non-financial parts of your life, purpose, health, relationships, are actually more critical for your happiness than your portfolio balance.
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
So let's start by unpacking that mindset, that relentless hyper-saver mindset. I think the core criticism you always hear about the extreme edge of the FIRE community is that it basically turns your life into a race to hit the fast forward button.
It's what I call the future utopia problem. When your whole identity is just focused on that one date you can quit, the FIRE date, you just inevitably sacrifice your happiness right here, right now.
Yeah.
The goal shifts. It's no longer about achieving financial freedom. It becomes about practicing chronic deprivation.
And that waiting, that constant deferral of happiness, it's exhausting. You're trading today's, fleeting but very real moments of joy for some abstract imaginary bliss 40 years down the road.
And the guilt is immense. You feel this immense guilt over a simple $5 coffee, not because you can't afford it.
No, not at all.
But because you see it as some kind of moral failing against your financial goals. You're completely distracted from the present because you're always living in a future projection.
The problem with that deprivation mindset, it's really twofold, isn't it?
It is. First, like we said, it makes the present miserable. And second, it often leads to the spending pendulum swing later on. People hit their number and they overcompensate dramatically because they never learned how to integrate joy and spending in a responsible way.
So when people do finally let themselves spend money, especially high earners who feel like they've earned it, they almost always gravitate towards material purchases. So why? Why do we constantly chase what is essentially a mirage of material wealth, even when we know it doesn't bring lasting fulfillment?
Well, because consumer culture is it's pervasive. It's relentless. It tells us over and over that consumption is the route to happiness and status.
Right.
But the data is clear. Even for high earners, new material purchases only give you a really short-lived satisfaction. Think about buying a brand new expensive car. The moment you drive it off the lot,
The joy starts to fade.
instantly, and you're already thinking about the next upgrade.
I see that in my own life. I mean, I might buy a new gadget or some piece of clothing, and for maybe 48 hours, I'm obsessed with it.
Hmm.
And then it's just a thing I own. It adds friction, maintenance, clutter. What is that phenomenon called? Where the satisfaction just vanishes so quickly.
That's hedonic adaptation at its most destructive, and it is a key psychological mechanism we have to understand if we want to beat consumerism.
But what is it exactly?
Essentially, our brains have this incredible capacity to adjust our baseline of happiness very, very quickly to new circumstances. A big win, a major purchase, it'll temporarily lift your mood, but your brain just adapts and goes right back to its set point.
So the expensive car, the upgraded kitchen, the latest smartphone, they're really just a temporary dopamine hit.
Exactly. You get used to them, they become normal, and then you need another upgrade just to feel that same level of excitement you felt before.
Which is why we get stuck in what you call the upgrade trap.
That's it. And it's financially devastating because the difference between a functional, high-quality item and the latest, most expensive version, it rarely enhances the actual experience in a meaningful way. If your old television worked perfectly fine, buying the new 8K model isn't going to fundamentally change the experience of watching a movie, but it will significantly increase the cost and the depreciation hit.
So we're basically on a hamster wheel. We're just constantly chasing that initial burst of novelty, knowing that within weeks, that novelty will be gone and we'll be ready for the next thing. So how do we spot what real wealth looks like if it's not these flashy purchases?
We have to look at what genuine financial stability really is, not what marketing departments tell us it is. We often assume true wealth means driving these huge, expensive cars.
Sure.
But studies on high net worth individuals, they actually reveal a preference for reliable, modest vehicles.
So their financial stability it's invisible.
It's totally invisible. They're optimizing for long-term control and, the power of compound growth, not short-term status signaling. They get that every flashy purchase is capital that's no longer working for them.
Financial stability is really about controlling what goes out, not performing well for your neighbors.
Precisely. And speaking of controlling outflows, we have to touch on the burden of debt. Sam Dogan, he's a respected financial expert, provides a really practical guideline here.
Folks thought.
He says to limit your car purchases to just 10% of your gross annual income.
10% of your gross income. So if you make $100,000 a year, your total car budget, new or used, should be under $10,000.
Yeah.
That is incredibly restrictive for a lot of people in our society.
Yeah.
So why is managing that specific type of debt so critical to our well-being?
Because consumer debt, especially things like high auto loans or credit card balances, it correlates directly with lower life satisfaction. Debt is a mental tax. It actively decreases your well-being because it represents deferred control.
Deferred control. I like that.
Every month, a chunk of your future income is already spent. It's allocated to the past. It just removes your optionality. It forces you to stay in jobs you hate just to service those payments.
That's a powerful way to put it. So it's not the price of the small luxury that's dragging our hyper-saver Alex down. It's the constant threat of debt, or maybe just the stress of constantly denying himself joyful spending that doesn't trigger that hedonic adaptation.
So if material things and debt are counterproductive to lasting happiness, then the central question remains.
What should you be spending your precious saved dollars on?
Exactly. How do you ensure they truly enrich your life and integrate with your financial goals? We need to move from a scarcity mindset to a prioritization mindset.
Right.
And the answer really lies in shifting our focus from static, physical objects to dynamic, internal growth, leveraging what we call the experience dividend.
The experience dividend.
Yeah, the research on this is definitive. People get more lasting satisfaction, more long-term happiness from experiences than from material goods.
But why is that? Why does a vacation, or even a chaotic, stressful trip to Cuba, why does that stick with us, while the memory of unboxing a new TV just fades instantly?
Because experiences become fundamentally woven into your identity. They create a narrative, which is how we as humans make sense of the world.
They become part of our story.
They're inherently shareable. You recount the story, you laugh about the mistakes, you revisit the success years later. You're essentially getting continuous enjoyment from a one-time expense.
Yeah.
A material purchase is just a full stop. An experience is a continuous positive feed. And this is the foundation for our first rule. Afford anything, but not everything.
I love that rule because it gives people permission to spend, which is what Alex desperately needs. It's all about personalized spending prioritization.
Hmm.
So if a certain expense truly aligns with your core values, health, relationships, exploration, whatever it is, you budget for it, guilt-free,
Hmm.
but you have to be ruthless about cutting everything else.
Absolutely. This is where we look at that anecdote of the financially savvy person who made health a core value and spent about $7,000 a year on high-end massages.
To financial purists, that sounds completely irresponsible. A luxury.
It does. But for this person, the massage wasn't a luxury. It was a non-negotiable mental and physical health expense that dramatically reduced their stress and, frankly, increased their professional longevity.
So they prioritized that one significant luxury, but they had to be acutely aware of the opportunity cost. They knew that $7,000 wasn't being invested in compounding.
It was a conscious choice. Immediate health and stress relief over a slightly faster FI date.
So the takeaway for you listening isn't go get a $7,000 massage plan. It's figure out what your $7,000 equivalent is, the thing that gives you maximum life leverage, and then cut everything else ruthlessly to make it happen.
You have to define what turns your crank and what you're willing to sacrifice for it. But in that process, we also have to be realistic about the little things. The accumulation of small, unnecessary costs, what we call the daily drain.
Okay, this is where we need to apply the math explicitly. Let's use the classic example, the $5.50 daily coffee from a cafe versus the 50-cent home-brewed cup.
That $5 difference. It seems so negligible on any given day. People just dismiss these small items.
It's just a coffee.
Right. They think it has no bearing on a massive financial goal. But money, it truly breeds like rabbits when you give it enough time. And that $5 difference, 5 days a week, is over $1,300 a year.
Okay, so let's run the numbers.
Let's do it. If you consistently invest that $5 daily difference for 40 years, and you assume a relatively conservative annualized return of 8%.
Which is pretty standard for diversified index fund investing.
Right, that gap.
Hmm.
It doesn't just represent a few $1,000s. That small daily choice represents over $1 million in future compound growth.
$1 million. That really puts the true costs of convenience and, I guess, joyless consumption into sharp focus. That $5 daily coffee isn't just $5.
No.
It's the opportunity to fund 3 whole years of your entire early retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful way to see where the vigilance should be focused on the habitual, joyless leaks, not the purposeful, infrequent, joy-aligned spending.
Precisely. The goal isn't deprivation, it's optimization. Which brings us to rule number 2. Don't budget with emotions, budget with math.
What do you mean by that?
Obsessing over the cost of every single small transaction, that just breeds stress and financial anxiety, which, as we already established, actively harms your current happiness.
So instead of, suffocating yourself with the strict budget you hate, you should use expense tracking to just generate awareness, to evaluate alignment.
Is your spending genuinely aligned with your personal values and fulfillment? If a $100 purchase buys you a trip to a museum with a loved one, that's an experience that enriches your identity.
But if it's just a piece of plastic clutter?
It's a poor allocation. You have to budget for genuine joy, guilt-free.
There's a great psychological tool for this, isn't there, to check if your spending is driven by genuine fulfillment or just, external validation.
The desert island test.
The desert island test.
Right.
Explain that.
It's simple. You just ask yourself, would I still buy this expensive watch, this flashy car, or this upgraded kitchen if absolutely no one else could ever see it?
That immediately exposes all the purchases driven by social comparison. We know that societal pressures, especially for young adults, are huge drivers of insecurity. They force us into this comparison trap that just diminishes life satisfaction.
And if you're buying it to impress someone, you're buying misery.
Which leads right into our third rule. Beware the burden of debt. We've kind of touched on it, but it's so important. High debt levels, especially consumer loans, they actively decrease your well-being.
Debt is the emotional inverse of freedom. It's a commitment to indentured servitude.
So by limiting those consumption cycles, maybe renting items you rarely use, avoiding the upgrade trap, and prioritizing experiences, you're fundamentally increasing your life satisfaction.
You are designing a life rich in memories, free from the drag of high debt and constant financial anxiety.
Now, if this information is changing the way you view the financial journey, if it's shifting your perspective from just pure numbers to a balanced life strategy, we want to hear about it.
Yeah, let us know.
Please take a quick moment to like this podcast and subscribe to the Project Fire channel. Hitting that little notification bell ensures you don't miss our next challenge to the status quo. It helps us ensure more people pursue financial freedom wisely and, avoid those major regrets down the road.
It really does help.
Okay, so we've established that chasing wealth by sacrificing the present is dangerous
Mm,
and often futile because of hedonic adaptation.
right.
But financial stability is only one component of a successful, happy life. In fact, it's just one leg of the retirement stool.
It is true. Long-term well-being and longevity rely on four essential pillars, and financial stability is just the first one.
What are the other three?
You need 1, enough money; 2, strong relationships with yourself and with others; 3, maximizing physical and emotional health; and 4, living with a sense of purpose.
And our culture just glorifies pillar one money often to the complete detriment of the other three.
Absolutely. An extreme obsessive focus on wealth accumulation, some studies suggest, can actually diminish empathy and hinder your ability to forge deep, meaningful relationships. You end up sacrificing the very things that will make retirement worthwhile.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful and long-running pieces of research on human thriving.
The Harvard study of adult development, spanning over 80 years, it provides the definitive answer to this question.
And the answer is?
Relationships are your real superpower. Close social connections are more vital for happiness and longevity than wealth, IQ, or social status.
It's not just emotional support either, is it? The strength of those connections has a real, measurable physiological impact.
It does. The quality of your relationships directly impacts your physical health. Stable, loving relationships reduce chronic stress hormones like cortisol. And when cortisol is chronically elevated, often due to loneliness or instability, it degrades nearly every system in the body. It leads to inflammation, poor immune function. Conversely, strong social ties act as a massive buffer against life stresses, effectively protecting your body at a cellular level.
That's incredible, that just having a good, stable support network actively protects your physical health.
Yeah.
We see this play out historically in the example of the Roseto effect.
Roseto, Pennsylvania. It was a small, tightly knit Italian-American community studied back in the 1960s.
And their lifestyle was not great.
Objectively fraught with risk. Poor diets, high in fat, high rates of smoking, physically demanding jobs. Yet residents had remarkably low rates of heart disease and notable longevity compared to neighboring towns.
So they should have been much sicker, logically speaking. If it wasn't diet or wealth, what was protecting them?
It was their powerful, resilient social fabric. They lived in multi-generational homes. They had highly structured social support. There was no social isolation. The deep, ingrained community bonds acted as this massive psychological buffer against the stress of modern life.
So it neutralized the physiological damage of their poor physical habits.
For a time, yes. Their environment and their relationships trumped genetics and even poor personal choices.
But then things changed.
They did. As the residents assimilated more into broader American society, the community became more individualistic. The multi-generational homes broke down, the shared social structures fractured, and as those community bonds eroded, their health outcomes just synchronized with the general American population.
The Roseto lesson is clear then. You can achieve financial security, but if you neglect Pillar 2, your social connection, your long-term health is going to suffer dramatically.
And if we need any more proof that relationships trump possessions, we can just turn to the end of life. Palliative care nurses consistently report that the regrets of the dying are almost universally relationship-based.
They regret neglecting their loved ones, their partners, their children, their friends.
And they regret living a life dictated by external expectations, rather than staying true to themselves. The overwhelming sentiment isn't, I wish I had a bigger portfolio. It's, I wish I had more time with the people I loved. Time they sacrificed during that hyperaccumulation phase of their lives.
Conversely, we also see the positive feedback loop of kindness and generosity.
Pro-social behavior. Spending money on others or just engaging in simple acts of kindness, it reduces your stress, enhances your own happiness, and it's linked to longevity. The joy is amplified because you witness the positive effect of your resources on someone else.
Unlike the solitary joy of a material purchase.
Now let's pivot back to the career path for a second. Many people see only one way to accelerate FIRE, the high-cost, high-pressure job trap.
Right. They believe if they just push harder for a massive salary increase, they can buy back the time they lost sooner.
But those high-paying leadership roles, those high-stress jobs, they often come with massive, unseen costs that destroy pillars 2, 3, and 4.
Relationships, health, and purpose. The story of Anita Sutton perfectly illustrates this trade-off.
Anita was a passionate primary school teacher who decided to pursue educational leadership to double her income. Financially, on paper, she was winning.
But within months, she found herself deeply dissatisfied. Why the immediate shift in happiness, even with all that extra money?
The job changed her purpose. She lost her direct, meaningful connection with the students, the very thing that gave her the deepest professional fulfillment. Her work shifted entirely to conflict resolution, endless administrative meetings, bureaucratic paperwork. Her time commitment just skyrocketed. She was working 12, 14 hours a day, which completely decimated her time with her family and friends.
So she was exhausted, experiencing moral fatigue.
Exactly. She bought a higher income, but she traded away her ikigai, her sense of purpose.
And what happened?
After 3 years of living a financially successful but personally miserable life, she went back to teaching. She took a significant pay cut, but she prioritized her fulfillment and her personal passions.
Her story shows that once we have enough money for our basic needs, that point where the worry is gone. Further increases in income do very little to boost life satisfaction if the cost is your purpose and your health.
And sometimes it's the logistical factors of chasing that high income that are the silent killers of happiness. We rarely calculate the misery caused by the commute factor.
Ugh, the commute.
A long commute, anything over 45 minutes each way, is a proven destroyer of personal relationships and overall happiness. Moving to a cheaper area for a bigger house might seem financially savvy.
But the hours lost in traffic, combined with the stress, it often outweighs the financial gains. That time is fundamentally stolen from your family and your health.
Studies show people never truly adapt to a miserable commute. It just remains a consistent source of daily unhappiness.
So even if you do land that high income, the comparison trap can still get you. If you surround yourself with even wealthier people in an expensive area, you can end up feeling inadequate.
And that social comparison consistently leads to feelings of inadequacy, affecting your mental health, even if you are a high earner. The goal should be to find environments that support balanced living and modest expenditure, not high consumption.
Right.
So the traditional FIRE movement often implies that the to retire early is the ultimate goal, a guaranteed path to bliss.
Yeah.
But we have to confront the reality that early retirement, especially a full withdrawal from work, isn't always positive. It can actually be a massive catalyst for regret.
For many people, retirement is this blissful reward they're working towards. But for those whose identity is heavily tied to their career, their title, their routine, their colleagues, it becomes a sudden traumatic transition.
It strips away the structure, the routine, and all the crucial social elements that work provided.
Robert Laura, he's a retirement activist. He uses a pretty stark analogy.
Being grounded.
Being grounded. The moment you retire, the things that were important, work, deadlines, interaction, they're all pulled away. He suggests the two most dangerous years of your life are when you're born and when you retire.
Primarily due to the failure to thrive that results from a lack of human interaction and purpose.
And we have data to quantify this social shock. It's known as interaction collapse. Can you detail how dramatically our social lives change the moment we stop working?
The change is staggering, and very few retirees anticipate it. While you're working, the average person has about 22 high-quality interactions each day.
What's a high-quality interaction?
That means face-to-face, engaged participation, talking to a colleague, collaborating on a project, having a meaningful lunch conversation.
Okay.
When that person retires, that number plummets to about 11 low-quality interactions.
And low quality is?
Typically text messages, brief emails, phone calls that lack that deep personal connection of an engaged conversation.
So that's a 50% reduction in genuine social fuel, and it happens instantly.
Instantly. And that massive drop contributes directly to the isolation, the loss of identity, and the subsequent depression that many new retirees face. And it's so crucial to understand this. Depression is not a normal part of aging. It's often a symptom of this profound social and structural withdrawal.
If your sense of self is linked to your job title, stopping work just creates an identity crisis that money can't solve.
It can't. The social structure of work is just deeply ingrained in our psychology.
So the new retirement mindset has to be about reorganizing work, not removing it completely. The cure lies in finding ikigai.
A Japanese term for a reason for being, a sense of purpose.
Right?
Ikigai is that philosophical sweet spot. It's where what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for all intersect. It provides continued meaning and structure. And this is why we emphasize the part-time wonders approach.
So engaging in flexible, meaningful part-time work gives you that ikigai, it maintains your social connections, and it contributes to better physical and mental health.
And it can alleviate minor financial worries at the same time. The research on longevity here is just undeniable. Working even 1 year past the traditional retirement age has been shown to decrease mortality risk by a significant margin.
And that's not just about the income.
Not at all. It's attributed to the preserved routine, the cognitive stimulation, and the maintained social interaction. We see it modeled by successful, engaged individuals who worked well into their late 90s. Their example shows that engagement and purpose are critical life extenders.
It fundamentally challenges the conventional belief that retirement has to be a complete withdrawal from the workforce.
And critically, we have to plan to protect the brain, not just the portfolio. Older adults consistently rank the fear of Alzheimer's and cognitive decline higher than cancer, stroke, or heart disease.
And the key defenses against that.
Physical activity and robust social connection.
It's a beautifully synergistic approach, isn't it? If you join a hiking club, you're getting physical health, cardiovascular fitness, and deep social connection, all at the same time.
We need to frame retirement planning around protecting your most vital asset, your mind, by ensuring these activities are budgeted for and planned out.
The tragedy is that most new retirees enter this phase completely unprepared for the sudden void. Our research indicates that less than 20% of new retirees have a written plan for an ideal day or an ideal week in retirement.
80% have a financial plan,
Right.
but they just haven't taken the time to think about what everyday life is actually going to look like.
And if you don't have a plan for how you'll allocate your time, that freedom can quickly become a form of enslavement. You see people just sitting at home, watching nonstop political TV, or falling into isolation and depression. You need purpose to fill that void.
This is why the planning phase should involve experimentation. Don't wait until you retire to try volunteering or start a new hobby. You might sign up for a charitable gig, be excited, and then find the routine miserable within 2 weeks. You have to try it out first.
So the ultimate message here is that retirement doesn't remove work. It just reorganizes it. You have to actively work on yourself and your life in retirement, and that takes intention.
The key is to leverage the value that work once provided, the routine, the interaction, the deadlines, and intentionally replace those roles in your personal life now before the official retirement date.
Okay, so let's bring this all back together. The evidence seems clear. The fastest path to financial independence might actually be the one that leaves you with the most profound regrets.
If you sacrifice your relationships, your health, your identity in your 20s and 30s for a number on a spreadsheet, that wealth is ultimately meaningless.
The solution is a balanced integration. We are not telling you to stop saving. Compound growth is the engine of FI. But you must integrate that financial strategy with robust behavioral and life strategies.
The focus has to shift from chasing more money to defining what enough money is. Enough to enable a life rich in experiences and connections, not endless consumption.
We need to remember the profound emotional truth of the Rosetta lesson. Money didn't save that community's health. Their resilient, strong social ties did. You can achieve FIRE, but if you do it alone, stressed, constantly depriving yourself, and focused only on the numbers, you might find yourself financially free, but socially and emotionally bankrupt.
A truly fulfilled life requires us to live authentically, prioritizing experiences that build meaningful relationships and create lasting memories over chasing fleeting consumer goods that just trigger hedonic adaptation.
It means recognizing that true happiness stems from internal values, not external validation.
At the end of the day, the biggest, most consistent threat to your long-term financial security, far outweighing a market crash or a low, safe withdrawal rate, is the person you face in the mirror each day. That person makes the behavioral decisions, the emotional reactions, and the lifestyle choices that either support or sabotage your future well-being.
So the question we leave you with, the unresolved mystery that demands your immediate attention, is this. What are you doing right now, not tomorrow, not when you retire, but today to invest in the person you want to be when the money finally runs free? Are you nurturing those relationships, prioritizing your health, and actively seeking purpose, or are you just staring at the clock waiting for life to start? That's the real challenge of the FIRE journey. Thanks for joining us on Project FIRE.